Alrighty, g'day guys, hope you are well. In today's video I'm going to talk about the concept of training through soreness. Now I'm not going to specifically talk on the early days of arm wrestling because I know that's a really debilitating time in terms of pain. It's like a toothache in the whole arm. I'm not going to be touching on that sort of stuff. I'm going to be touching on more so the sort of level of arm wrestler that is maybe anywhere from a year in through to lifetime in the sport. Okay. What my approach has been and how I've had an effect, how I've come to that point, and also what the sort of effects are that I've felt throughout that period, and whether I think it's working or not. Anyway, so for me, I'm someone who really doesn't believe in overtraining. I believe in intelligent training and I believe in irresponsible training. I categorize irresponsible training as anything that is going to cause injury, essentially. And yes, if you train to your maximum level all the time, as in trying to hit 1 rep maxes and all that sort of stuff every day, that's going to fall into the irresponsible category because that's going to cause an injury. So I'm not talking about training through soreness in that respect. What I'm talking about is repeated training of the same connective tissue that is already tender, is already quite sore and inflamed from a previous effort. Now I'm going to talk about how I go about training that without causing an injury. And the reason that I came up with this philosophy in my own training was for a couple of reasons. I spent a lot of time in the military. Was when I first left high school, I was in the military for 7 and a bit years. And I watched the way that the army trains, and I watched the way that soldiers are forced to condition their bodies to repetitive movements. Also, I had an experience when I first left high school, actually before I joined the army. For a couple of months before I joined the army, I was a labourer for a builder, just cutting cement, cutting bricks back and forth. And there was something that happened during that first few weeks of work that really has translated through to my arm wrestling training. And what that was my first week of being a brickies labourer was the most sore week I've ever had in my life in terms of delayed onset muscle soreness. Every muscle in my body, every bit of connective tissue in my hands was so unbelievably sore from taking on an activity that I just simply wasn't conditioned to. Now, of course, when you're working, you can't just have a week off and just say, hey boss, I'm really sore, I'm not going to turn up, I need to rest to allow my connective tissue to feel better again. No, of course, you just go back to work, you keep on doing what you're doing, and sure enough, about 2 to 3 weeks later, I wasn't sore anymore, and I was conditioned to what my boss was asking of me as a brickies labourer. So that one stuck in my mind, but also the military. Like I said, the military has a training methodology, particularly within the Special Forces realm, where they just say, look, too bad, suck it up, keep going. I don't care that you're sore, I don't care that you're tired, I don't care that you feel weak, keep going. The war's not going to stop just for you. So that methodology of keeping on going regardless of what you may think up here is something that I've taken the approach to. So you all know that I, now when we talk about arm wrestling, you all know that I focus on the hand more so than anything. So my experiences in this style of training, I'm going to talk about in relation to the hand. So when I do, say, plate curls, when I first started doing plate curls, it didn't take long, only like 1 or 2 days, and the tendons in my fingers were really quite sore. The tendons in my fingers were, I remember when I would wake up in the morning, my default position for my hands was there. And if I tried to straighten them, that would be an effort. As soon as I relaxed, my fingers would go boom, back to here. So the tightness in my tendons, in my fingers, was quite significant. Now I had a couple of choices. I could either say, all right, my tendons are really sore, I need to give it 3 to 4 days before I do any plate cupping again. That's what most people tend to do. Most people tend to do that, where for me, I said, no, screw it, I am going to do more plate cupping. Every single day I'm going to do plate cupping. And I did that. And I'll tell you right now that it took about a month and a half, 2 months before the soreness in my fingers disappeared. Now I plate cup every day still, and I don't get sore in my fingers. And as a result, my finger thickness has really gone up, and I believe it's been really instrumental to my hand control. So that's the one example that I'm talking about. Now, you can apply this to all connective tissue in your body. I do believe that the human body has an amazing ability to adapt to whatever workload that you are asking of it. And as long as you're not doing anything stupid, explosive movements, repeated max effort sort of explosive movements, I think that's where you're going to get injury. But this is why it all comes back to the sort of weights and reps that I work with. When I'm plate cupping, as you've seen it, I'm plate cupping with a 10 kilo plate. It's not particularly heavy. I strap my hand in and I go from there. So it's not anything that's overly taxing. Single-handed, just plate cupping, it's not going to hurt too much. So for me, I'm always working with a weight on my connective tissue in my hand or in my elbow there. That's about probably 30 to 40% of my maximum effort. But I hit as many reps as I possibly can. And I make sure I stay safe. If anything ever feels like it's got sort of an acute sort of pain to it, then the weight's too heavy. I'll lighten it up. I never want it to be acute pain. I always want it to be just kind of on the edge of going, oh yeah, that's pretty tender, that connective tissue. Anyway, and just keep on doing it and you'll find the weight gets heavier and heavier that you can handle without any sort of indication of connective tissue pain. So for me, it all comes back down to this, guys, that I believe the human body can adapt more than anything. Trust it, just train smart, don't train crazy. There is no such thing as overtraining if you are training smart. And yeah, guys, that's the method that I've been working with. I'd love to hear if you think this is on the money or if you think I'm crazy. Let me know in the comments below. But it's what I've been working with. It's what I'll continue to work with. And yeah, awesome, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching.